Welcome everyone to our webcast today, What's New in Autodesk InfraWorks 360. These are features we're going to talk about that came out 2 days ago, back on February 8th. So everything is brand new. With me today is Dan Philbrick and also Shakri Gavini. They'll be here to answer questions or provide insight as we move along, but I'm going to be driving the bulk of the presentation today. Before we get into the content, though, I want to talk a little bit just about our webcast series in our community. The webcast series runs twice a month, typically the first and third Wednesdays of the month, but we backed it up a week to time it with the release so that we could talk to you about all these exciting new features and other announcements. So we're a week late this month, and we're going to be a week late for a couple of upcoming webcasts until we can get back on track. So just keep an eye on all the different social media and community channels telling you when the next few webcasts are going to take place. If you're new to this series, our goals here are to keep you informed about what's going on with InfraWorks 360 from the perspective of the product team. So our product team is either presenting or they're close by to really give you their insight and giving you the opportunity to interact with them. And it's all in an effort to bring our users closer together with the folks who make the software. Our next webcast is going to be in 2 weeks, February 24th. Again, that's 1 week late. Typically, we're the first and third, but not this month. We're going to talk about the new model upgrade experience. We've got Sarah and Isaac who are going to be presenting that, and they work with this part of the software and developing it all the time. So they are very knowledgeable about the new model upgrade experience. I'm going to talk about it briefly today, but they're really going to dig in and help you answer any questions that you might have about that. So please watch all of the URLs and different channels listed in the bullet list there about information on that upcoming webcast. We'll be posting links and information on how to register probably early next week. As we normally do, I want to take this opportunity to do a quick poll. We want to find out what your current usage level is of InfraWorks 360. So go ahead and provide your answer if you don't mind, ranging from I don't even have it installed up to I use it on every project, couldn't live without it. And over time we've seen this really accelerate toward the bottom of the list, so it's nice to see we're even further into that into that fourth answer than ever. Right now we're up to 30% of the respondents are regularly using it on some projects, so that's great to hear that we have so many of you regularly using it. I'll give it a few more seconds for everyone to provide their answers. It looks like about 80% of you have voted. And let's go ahead and close down that poll. So for those of you who voted, thanks very much for providing that feedback. That really helps us out in knowing how the adoption is going. Our InfraWorks 360 community is there for you. We have a community hub. It's at Autodesk.com, InfraWorks 360 community. Definitely check that out. It's a central location for the user forum, the idea station where you can post your ideas about how to make the software better. Infra tips, which are quick, 30-second, couple-minute tips to help you be more productive or maybe learn something about the software you didn't know. We've got the gallery where users like yourselves can post their projects, what they've been up to. It's a great way if you're just getting into InfraWorks 360 to see all the different things you can do with it. Our gallery is amazing. There's such a big diversity of projects up there, and they're almost all from our users. Our social hub gives you a live feed of Facebook and Twitter and various blogs that have to do with InfraWorks. The videos are up there from all of our webcasts. So far, I've not forgotten to record any of them, which is amazing. We've been doing this since April, and today is no exception. If you want to review what we covered today, the recording will be up on the community site, as well as information on how to register for upcoming webcasts. And there's lots of other videos too. We have our YouTube channel tapped right into the community page, so it's a great one-stop shop for everything InfraWorks 360, including a new learning tab, which if you haven't been to the site for a while, I definitely want to check that out. It's It's got new content on it, a new layout, very, very nice way to get yourself up to speed on the product. A little bit of a disclaimer, I don't think we're going to talk about any preview features today, but just in case we do, we just want you to know that any mention of a preview feature or something we're working on in labs is not a promise that it's going to appear in a future release, and we don't want you to make any purchasing decisions based on anything like that. We want you to ask lots of questions. I see there are quite a few already, although a lot of them have to do with the audio not working, but Dan and Shakri are standing by. They are eager to answer your questions, and it just makes it more interesting, breaks up the topics a little bit, and we really want to know what you're thinking. We want to know what's on your mind, what questions do you have, what's bugging you, what do you like. So please feel free to use the questions panel, the questions window on your GoToWebinar interface. Unfortunately, with the size of our group, we can't open the phone lines. It would sound like craziness, but we do absolutely welcome your questions, and we will talk about whatever we have time to online. All right, so let's get into the content of our presentation, what's new in InfraWorks 360. I've broken this down into 4 areas. First, talking about how it's easier to buy. Second, the better design context, so different, better ways to build out your model. Third, detailed engineering. So, as each release comes out, we're moving more and more in the area or in the direction of detailed engineering, and this version is absolutely no exception. We've really done some amazing things there. And then we'll wrap it up with improved collaboration and sharing. And you're going to see that all of this stuff, if you haven't already gone out and downloaded the latest release, you're going to want to do it right away. So let's talk about making the product easier to buy. Up until a few days ago, Monday, the bridge, drainage, and roadway design vertical applications were a separate purchase. So starting at the bottom of the stack, there's InfraWorks 360 LT, which is a basic version of the product, which is included with suites, but up until this week, you could purchase separately. And then you had full-blown InfraWorks 360, which was a separate purchase. And then on top of that, you could individually purchase each vertical application, bridge, drainage, and road. Now what we've done is we've taken all 3 of those vertical applications and we put them into the InfraWorks 360 product. So now if you own InfraWorks 360, you own all of that functionality. There's no additional purchase to get bridge, drainage, and road on top of that. Now, InfraWorks 360 LT is still a separate product. It's still a more basic version of InfraWorks 360, but it's no longer available as a separate purchase. So if you want access to that, it's going to have to be part of either Infrastructure Design Suite Premium, Ultimate, or Building Design Suite Ultimate. So we've taken InfraWorks 360 and I don't know if you can measure the amount of functionality. We've doubled it. I mean, maybe even more with the amount that we've added to it. And on top of that, we've even lowered the price on it. So we can't really tell you details about that because that changes from region to region. But we do want to urge you to get on the phone with your reseller as soon as this webcast is over and find out about the price reduction. That's more than likely going to be something you can take advantage of. So more functionality, lower price. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that. On top of that way of making InfraWorks 360 easier to get, you'll now find that there's an education license available. Now, I believe this actually isn't brand new. This was available a little while ago, but fairly recently we made it possible for education licenses to be acquired, and they're free, of course. So if you're in the education community, you're a student, you're a teacher, you definitely want to check this out because it's a way to get a free license of InfraWorks 360 for your class or for yourself, whatever your role happens to be. All right, and those are all things that make it easier than ever for InfraWorks 360 to get in the hands of everyone. So, we really want to see a lot of adoption out there of this product. It's amazing, it's groundbreaking, and it really can be a powerful solution in a lot of different areas. All right, let's talk about design context. And Dan and Chakri, if there are any really compelling questions that pop up, feel free to interrupt me and and we can definitely talk about those over the phone if need be. If not, I'm just going to keep rolling. So better
Yeah,
design.
keep rolling, Eric. We'll bring up questions maybe as we go through or near the end. So yeah, keep rolling.
All right. So better context. So as you all, or many of you probably know, Model Builder is an amazing tool. It's the way that you'll probably start 90% of your projects is by going out and just finding an area on this Maps interface and having Model Builder build that model for you. We've made some improvements. A lot of the data that is used to create a Model Builder model comes from OpenStreetMaps. And one of the improvements we've made is now when you hover over a feature like a road, let's say, that's created with OpenStreetMaps, the tooltip will have a link to the source data for that piece of information. So you can find out where it came from, when it was last updated, those sorts of things. Another thing we've done is in past releases with Model Builder, we found that at certain times around bridges there were elevation issues where the roads adjacent to the bridge were elevated more than they should have been. Our programming team has taken a look at that and made some changes in how they tap into the OpenStreetMaps data, and you'll find that that result is much better than it's ever been. And then finally, just in general, we've updated our OpenStreetMap snapshot. So OpenStreetMap data, it's out there, and we've recently updated the version of the data that we use to build those Model Builder models for you. So everything should be more current, more close to what's really out there in the field. So I just want to very quickly, I'm going to do what's becoming a lost art. I'm going to do a little live demonstration here. But I'm going to open a model, one that I know was built with recent Model Builder data. And you'll notice if I hover over one of these roads, in the tooltip that appears, you'll see a hyperlink that says OpenStreetMap. I'll just click that hyperlink, and it'll take me straight to the data that has to do with that feature. So in some cases, you'll get some extra data, like it's telling me some information about it. You may get information about when it was updated, that sort of thing. So it takes you right to the OpenStreetMap site for that particular piece of information. So what's next? A feature that I'm really personally excited about is the ability to overlay an image on your InfraWorks 360 model. Now, you've been able to bring in imagery before, but it kind of had to be geo-referenced imagery. It took a lot of extra work to position an image just where you needed it to be. But now you can just click and drag that image, place it wherever you like, move it around, scale it, rotate it, even correlate it. I'm going to show you some correlation tools in just a second that allow you to line that image up with different points in your model. You can see a preview video of it here. And on top of that, we've got this opacity setting over in the Properties window where you can make the image any level of transparent. So just by adjusting that number somewhere between 0 and 1, think of it as a percentage where 1 would be completely opaque and 0 would be completely transparent. That's how you adjust the image transparency. So why is this important? Just think of the possibilities. You can take any image that you have, whether it's in this case, this is kind of a screen capture from a Civil 3D drawing. But if you've got, a design plan that you've converted into an image file, or just a sketch of something, or a certain texture, I mean, you can drape this now over your model anywhere you want and easily control where it is, how big it is, that sort of thing. So again, let's jump into some live demonstration here. And I've got that same example that you saw in the sample video with this kind of a screen capture of a Civil 3D subdivision layout. So you can see all the parcels there. And what I did is I went into Civil 3D and I just plotted this as a web published JPEG. So it was real easy to do, just took me a minute, and it came out the way it looked in the drawing. So in fact, if I go into Properties here and crank up the opacity, it even looks more like a Civil 3D drawing because of the solid black screen, right? So that's how easy it is to just drop this in. And all I did, actually you can drag and drop an image right from Windows Explorer, or you can go to your data sources window and just pick raster. And when you do that, it'll recognize it as a raster image and call it a terrain overlay. In fact, you'll notice there's an extra folder here now called terrain overlays. If you right click and pick configure, kind of the big news here is this ability to use the interactive placing, because that lets me, move it around where I need it to be. And then once it's in the drawing, or once it's in the model, I can right click and pick edit just like any other feature, and I can change its size, I can rotate it around, I can move it around, and it always wants to just drape itself on the terrain. You can see how it conforms to the terrain. So it lets you take any kind of image and place it on the model and drape it. Now typically what you're going to want to do is align this image with some features in your model to line things up, put things where they're supposed to go. So in that case you're probably going to want to turn on opacity. So I'll set this to 0.75. Let's say that's been pretty good to me. And then you can take this and kind of rough it into place. And then if you right click on the image, there's a place by reference points option. So you can click that, and it's a matter of matching up 3 points. So I'll double click a point. I think I may have it upside down. Let me turn the opacity back to 1. Get this thing lined up the way it's supposed to be. Yep. Excuse me. So I'm kind of roughing it in there, and I'll rough it into place here, turn up the opacity, and now I can use my correlation tools. So I'll select the image, right click, place by reference points, and you double click here. So I'll double click 1 point in the image and 1 point in the model. Here's another point in the image, and I'm doing this really rough. Normally I would kind of zoom in and get it just right on. And then I'll do a third point, and it actually does kind of a rubber sheeting action where it'll contort the image just a little bit, because images can have they can be slightly off from one end of the image to the other. So now I've got a good correlation between the image and what's in the model. Another thing I'll show you is that if you go to Model Explorer, you'll see a second section now, or an extra section for overlays, and you can use this to turn overlays on and off. You can see I had one waiting there for drainage areas. You can also use it to change the display order, so I can bring stuff to the top, move it to the bottom. And by playing with that and opacity, you can really get a really nice result in the model with whatever images you're working with. So really great feature. All right, so moving on to our next topic. I mentioned this early in the presentation. This is going to be our next webcast topic, and that's a new model upgrade experience. And the big news here is that you can now upgrade the cloud version of a model, right? In the past, you kind of had to upgrade a local version and then republish it to the cloud. And this tended to be disruptive if you had a team working on that model. Well, now we can update the cloud model directly, which means we don't have to disrupt the team workflow anymore. The other thing you'll notice is that there are a lot of dialogues and a lot of messaging that help guide you through the process of getting your model upgraded. This can make people nervous because you're actually changing things and moving from one version to the next, so we want to make it very comfortable for you. Now, some questions that usually pop up right off the bat. Can anyone upgrade my model if I have a team of 10 people and, I've got someone that just got hired last week? Can they go in and mess with my model? And the answer is no. You have control as the administrator of the model through permissions as to who can upgrade and who can't. And also, if on my team I just want to upgrade the model myself and kind of see what happens without messing up the rest of the team, or without affecting the rest of the team, can I do that? And the answer is yes. You can make a copy of the cloud version and upgrade just that copy. So if you want to test things out and see how they go, that makes you feel more comfortable, you have that option as well. So you have lots of choices, you have information that guides you through the process, and you have the ability to upgrade a model in such a way that it doesn't disrupt a team structure. So this is really big news. And like I said, in 2 weeks, Sarah and Isaac are going to talk in depth about this, so you'll want to definitely catch that. We've also improved bookmarks. So basically redid the bookmarks menu, or flyout as it's called. It's a better experience with naming and adding and removing bookmarks. You can change the height of the bookmark flyout. There's a search function in there, and you can also, right from the bookmarks flyout, you can control whether a bookmark becomes a panorama when you publish to the web. And then finally, you can also update the thumbnails associated with the bookmark. So if you add something major to your model and you want that reflected in the bookmark, you can do that. So let me show you some live demo of this. I'm going to switch models actually. We've got some bookmarks stored in this model, and just to show you, kind of the new look of the bookmarks flyout. And if you've got a lot of bookmarks in your model, you can scroll, or you can increase the size of the bookmarks flyout. In some, I've seen models where there are so many bookmarks that they don't fit on the screen. So that, in cases like that, being able to search can be really helpful. So if I can search on the word entrance, for example, it'll filter out the list to only those bookmarks that have the word entrance in them. So that can be really handy if you've got a ton of bookmarks. So adding a bookmark is really easy. As before, orient your view. You're going to click add, and I'll just call this cul-de-sac. And you'll just find that the whole experience of doing that is smoother than ever before. If I want to remove a bookmark, it's just a matter of clicking this icon here. And then we were talking earlier about updating the thumbnails. Let me go ahead and switch to this office bookmark. And you can see we've got some cars in the parking lot there. Just to make a change, I'm going to make a few copies of this car. So now that bookmark view is quite a bit different than what it's currently showing. So all I have to do is come down here to this little refresh icon, click it, all the bookmarks will be refreshed, and now you can see the extra cars in the thumbnail. Go ahead and take those out because they're kind of silly. And again, we can refresh the bookmarks to make them more representative of what's really in the model. And then finally, this little icon here controls whether or not the panorama view will be created for this bookmark. So when you publish this to the web, will this bookmark become a panorama? Yes, it will currently. If I want to disable that, I just click the little eyeball, and now it's disabled. So you can see as I move my mouse back and forth through the different bookmarks, you can see which ones will be published and which won't. All right, so why is it important that we have better bookmarks? It allows you to navigate the model and therefore communicate your design easier. So it's not just about yourself working in the model, but a lot of times you want to show people what you're doing, and that's one of the things that InfraWorks 360 is so great at, is it always looks so good. It's always a literal representation of what you're designing. Anyone could look at it and tell that, for example, on the screen now, I mean, those are roads and trees and a stream, and anyone can tell that. Whereas if you're working in Civil 3D or one of our traditional design products, it's a little more difficult to communicate that design. So that takes us into more detailed engineering capabilities. So as you're going to see as we go on here, this just keeps getting better and better. So first, you'll notice with this new release that you're just going to see improved responsiveness with roadway design. Things will just happen more quickly. And then on top of that, we've updated the way that profile edits are applied or committed to the model. And the way it works is while you're in the profile window, you can make as many changes as you want, but they won't be committed to the model until you move your cursor into the model area. And I'll demonstrate this for you as well. So let's take a look at a large road corridor that I have running through here. Actually, I need to switch models again. Bear with me. Luckily, you can switch models very quickly in InfraWorks 360. So I just went in here and created a nice long road model. And you'll see as I edit it, just making some changes either vertically or horizontally, the changes are committed to the model much more quickly. This is a fairly long road, it's over 12,000 feet long, so more than 2 miles long. And you know, these changes are happening rather quickly. And then what I was talking about earlier with the profile view, if I switch into profile view and I make some changes, you'll see the changes previewed kind of with the gizmos and the ghost lines in the model, but they won't actually be committed to the model until I move my cursor. I don't have to click or anything. I just simply move my cursor into the model area. You can see the blue donut pop up, and then the model is prompted to update. So now you can work in your profile, and a lot of folks doing road design love to work in profile view, so they're going to be really excited about this. I can go into this profile, I can add PVIs, I can remove PVIs, and I don't have to worry about waiting that couple of seconds each time I make a change. When I'm ready to commit the changes, I just simply move my cursor up to the model and they're applied to the model. So it's a very subtle, very simple change, but I think you're going to find it's really, really powerful if you do a lot of road design, and probably many of you do, because that's one of the things that InfraWorks is so good at. We also expanded the Roundabout functionality. We've got more gizmos and asset cards so that you have more control over the design than ever before. You're going to see horizontal and vertical design capabilities added, and we've also added support for UK standards. So as time goes on, we're going to add more and more standards to InfraWorks 360, so it's easier to design in different areas of the planet. So let's take a look at some of those changes here live in the software. Got a simple roundabout in here. So I'll just zoom in and show you some of the horizontal editing capabilities. I can move the position of the roundabout, and you'll notice I'm not changing the location where the roads intersect. I'm actually changing the location of the roundabout itself. So the attached roads are not moving at all. It's just the position of the roundabout within that intersection itself. I also have two different gizmos to control the radius, and I can even independently control the arms. And to go along with all these gizmos that I'm modifying, I can do a lot of these things over here in the asset cards as well. So I've got values that I can modify if I want, specific numeric values. Like I probably want to make this exactly 200 in this case. That's where I can make that happen. Now, if I flip this over into vertical, we see some similar capabilities. So I can adjust the elevation of the roundabout. And I can also now adjust the tilt. That's this gizmo here. Lets me adjust the tilt of the roundabout. And then this gizmo lets me set the angle for that tilt. So if I wanted to tilt in the other direction, I can simply drag that around. And now I've got a roundabout that tilts at a certain slope in a certain direction. All right, so lots more that you can do with roundabouts than ever before. And why is this stuff so important? It lets you design with more detail, right? Every time a new release comes out, we're adding more values, more gizmos, more detail to the design to let you get closer to a full design in each of these cases. On a similar topic, we now have ramp support as well. And what's really cool about this, there's no command to create a ramp. There's no special feature for a ramp. They just kind of happen magically. If you create an intersection and it's sharper than a 45-degree angle, that will naturally become a ramp. And that means it'll be fitted with a deceleration or acceleration lane and the transition as well that goes along with that. And then the striping is reconfigured to match what you'd want to see for a ramp. So let's check that out. I'll go back into the software and just show you how the ramp works. So here I've got just a simple little piece of road, and I'll actually start it here near a 90-degree intersection. And you'll see that when I place it at that angle, it turns itself into your standard intersection. And then if I take that same road and simply work it around to a less than 45-degree angle, it becomes a ramp. And there's my acceleration lane, or acceleration lane in this case, because this is an on-ramp. And of course, if I don't like the results of the transition lane or the length of the lane, I can change that. If I want to add more lanes, I can do that. So just like everything else in InfraWorks 360, you have control over the geometry that's created. But the initial design is usually pretty good because it's based on design standards, and we make some educated assumptions about what your geometry should look like. So to create a ramp, it's that easy. Just create an intersection at less than 90 degrees, or I'm sorry, less than 45 degrees, and it will become a ramp. Now, what if you want to force this to be, a standard type of intersection? All you have to do is add a point and make that angle sharper than 45 degrees. And that'll turn it into a standard intersection. You can even make that bend happen within the intersection area itself, but because of this, it kind of forces it to be a regular intersection rather than a ramp configuration. Pretty rare case, but there might be times where you want that sharp, less than 45-degree standard configured intersection. All right, moving right along. This is a big one too. Something that's been at the top of many wish lists for InfraWorks 360 is the ability to carve a left turn lane out of a median, or to cover the planet. We call this a center turn lane because if you're in the UK, you're driving on the left side of the road, this becomes a right turn, correct? So we're calling it a center turn lane. Really the only requirement is that you have a median area in your road style, and that median area is at least as wide as one of the lanes. It makes sense. You've got to have something to carve the lane out of, and it's got to be wide enough to fit the lane and then a little bit of median space. So let me show you how you might apply that. I'm going to go to just going to go to this proposal here, and we've got some existing roads over here in our community. And let's say we want to improve this intersection. We want to include a left turn lane. So I'm going to convert this to a design road. I'll convert this to a design road. I'll fix up the intersection here. And now I've got an intersection that I can work with. Now, in order to make this left turn lane, I have to have a median, like I said just a moment ago, to carve it out of. So I'll bring up my style palette and I'll just drop a style on there that has a median in it. And I want to check that style to make sure that the median is wide enough to hold a lane. So there's my median. It's 10 feet wide. My roadways are 9 or so feet wide. These are pretty narrow roadways. But I just need to make sure there's enough space there to carve out that median. If all is there, if everything works out the way it should, if you click on the intersection and then hover near the tip of the median, you'll see this extra little square zone pop out here. If you click that little zone, a gizmo pops up, and then you can just drag that backwards to carve out your left turn lane. All right, but if your median isn't there, or you don't have a wide enough median, you won't see that extra little zone pop up. So if you're wondering why, you saw Eric demonstrate a left turn lane on the webcast and you just can't get it to work, make sure you have those two things in place. You need to have the median area. It doesn't have to be a raised median like I have here. It can be a flat median that looks just like pavement, the rest of your road. But that median area has to be in the style, and it has to be wider or as wide as one of the lanes in the intersection. With that, it's a piece of cake. It's just like adding any other widening area. Once it's in place, you can, of course, adjust it, make the transition longer, make the storage area longer. All the striping comes in with it, and you've got all the full control over everything like you normally have in an intersection. So this is really big news. It's a feature that that you all have wanted for quite a while, and now you have it. Now it's in the software. And again, why is this type of addition why is it so important? It allows you to design with more detail, and really there's an extra benefit in this case. There are a couple of workflows out there to add left turn lanes with the software as it has been up to this point. In fact, I've got some stuff out there myself, and those workflows are 10 times longer than what this literally takes a few seconds to carve out that left turn lane. This is really how it should be, nice and easy and simple and straightforward. So it's a really great addition, not just allowing you to design with more detail, but also design a lot more quickly, because the time it took to do something like this was much longer in the past. Some other road improvements. We're now able to support more complex intersections. So if you look at the image in the top right corner there, something like that was a little more difficult to do in a prior release. We've also got some improvements to traffic simulation. You'll find that it's a lot easier and more straightforward to interact with the results, both the graphical results, the red and blue bars, and like you'll see in the example video here, we're adjusting the threshold when does an area become blue and when is it red? How do we want to indicate where the problem areas are? We can easily adjust that. We can also take our results from traffic simulation and export them to CSV. So now you can, CSV and Excel, also XLS. So now you can take that data, put it in a report, do what you need to do with the raw numerical data from the traffic simulation. And that was another big wish list item that we're happy to report that you now have at your disposal with this latest version. So why is this important? It gives you more control over the results of your design. In the graphical case, controlling what you see on the screen and what it represents, and then with the output of the report, there's just so many more things now you can do with that output now that you have it numerically. You can take it into other, something as simple as taking it into a spreadsheet program like Excel, or maybe even taking it into another analysis program or something in that nature. Another addition is bridge textures. Just the ability to look at an individual bridge component and assign a texture to it. That's a new feature. And then in addition to that, we've provided some more multi-scale textures. You'll see some in the bridge area, the bridge folder, and there are some new ones in the terrain folder as well. If you're not familiar with multi-scale textures, it's actually multiple texture images in one, and as you zoom in, the texture changes and it becomes more detailed, and as you zoom out, it becomes less detailed. So if you can think of older versions of the software where maybe you had a big lawn area and it looked great when you were zoomed in real close, but if you zoomed out, you started to see all the tiles of the individual images. Well, now we have textures that don't do that. They actually look great at any zoom scale. So let me show you how that works quickly. Jump back into InfraWorks 360 here and back to our design road, and I just want to add a quick bridge over here. So just right click, add bridge, pick 2 points. It's always easy to make stuff in InfraWorks 360. And I want to show you how easy it is to add this texture. Let me raise this bridge up a bit so we can see the piers a little better. Don't judge me on my design here. It's a little bit crazy. But what I want to show you is the new ability to assign textures to these components. So here's some bridge piers under here. need to do a little work with their placement and rotation. But you'll notice when I click on the bridge, that selects the bridge, and then I'll click on this individual pier component. It's a legacy pier right now, so I'm going to switch that to one of these other new pier styles that became available in the previous release, or maybe one before that. So we've got lots of cool pier styles now. And then once I've assigned the new pier style, the asset card changes, and one of the new capabilities I get is the ability to assign a texture. So I'll just click the icon there, choose one of the textures that's available. Here's one called brick. I'll click OK. And then what I get is a very realistic looking texture on that pier that because it's multi-scale, it looks good at any zoom distance. So looks great from here. If I zoom in real close, you can see it still looks great. I need to zoom out a little bit, kind of reset my, there we go. So that's what's great about these multi-scale textures. They look fantastic no matter how far away or how close you are. They dynamically change as your distance away from them changes. Now, why is that important? It may seem kind of like a aesthetic thing, but really one of the great features about InfraWorks 360 is that it takes little to no effort to go from design to communicating your design. Think of the past before we had InfraWorks 360. If you wanted to take your Civil 3D drawing into a meeting and show it to somebody, you had to dress it up and make it look like something that anyone in the room could understand. InfraWorks 360 isn't like that. You can take, as you're designing, you can literally just stand up, grab your laptop, take it into the meeting room. You don't have to change anything to make it understandable to an audience. And the more realistic you can make it look, the easier it is for folks to understand, the easier it is for them to visualize this actually being built in the field. So this just brings you, even bridges that gap even more between designing and communicating your design, just by making things look more realistic and higher quality. We've also got some exciting drainage improvements in this version. You can use your own rainfall data. So, rainfall data for your region, you can plug that into the calculations that are used in sizing pipes and that sort of thing. You can also import what we're calling 2.5D pipe data. So, typical example is GIS data, which represents the locations of pipes and structures, with the inverts being included as attribute data. So the inverts are attributes. We can now import that data into InfraWorks 360, and that will become 3D pipe data like you see on your screen here. It'll grab that invert data off the attributes and actually turn it into the 3D physical location of the pipes and structures underground. But let's take a look at this rainfall data. I'm going to switch proposals here. And I want to show you this ability to use your own rainfall data. So how do I get to it, I guess, is the first question. If you open up the drainage icon with the drainage toolset, which I'll repeat is now available in the base InfraWorks 360 product. You don't have to make a separate purchase to get this. It's now just part of the software. But within that toolbar, under the Analyze Your Model toolbar, you'll now see a rainfall content icon. If I click that, it brings up a panel over here on the right side, and these are different rainfall files that I can add, modify, copy, whatever. And it comes with samples, this ANZ polynomial, BDE sample, and tabular sample. So these are samples that you can start with and find the one that closely matches what you have in your region, and then you can modify it. You can also export and import. So I can import CSV and export CSV. So if you have data already typed out somewhere, you can actually bring that in. If you get the format proper, you can bring that in as an import. But let's just take a look at an example that I made here. I think I copied tabular and just made some modifications to it. You can see it's pretty straightforward. It's just tabular data for different times of concentration and storm events. It graphs it for me automatically so I can take a look at different storm events and what they look like. And then I can assign any one of these as a default. So, when I click on one of the inlets, let's say, and I look at the asset card, the flow that it's calculating is coming from that default rainfall file. And I can even go so far as to do an analysis. So let's say I want to analyze this outfall pipe and see if it's going to work for a certain set of rainfall data. So I'll use the inspect performance command here. This command was here before, but now we've added this extra section where you can select the rainfall data that you want to use. And I'll start by using this BDE sample, just grabbing an example here. And I'll select my two structures to indicate which pipe I want to analyze. And when I use that, when I use that rainfall file, I think it's going to tell me that everything looks good. So it's reading out data and telling me what the EGL and HGL values are at different locations. But if I try that same command with Ozark, my Ozark rainfall data, I think we're going to find that Ozark has higher values. It's a higher amount of rainfall, and because of that extra flow, I think it's going to tell me the pipe is surcharged. So that just shows you one example of how you can plug in this rainfall data for a specific type of analysis. There are other examples as well, and I invite you to definitely check those out. Another drainage improvement is that we can now analyze pipes and structures that are not within the road area. And what makes that possible is that the asset card that shows like the area of the drainage area, the C factor, those fields are now editable. And again, it's easier just to jump in and show you. I've got this same example as the one you saw in the video of, I've got this inlet out in the parking lot. Now I know it's probably not typical practice to just tie in an inlet that's outside of the road area, but let's say this was an intersection or a bus pull-off or something like that that was adjacent to and not part of the road surface. You can now click that inlet and adjust the tributary area. Let's say, notice I put in exactly 1 acre in square feet. You can set the time of concentration, and it will use the default rainfall data file and calculate the rainfall intensity as well as the flow. Now I can edit the runoff coefficient. 0.65 might be a little low for that, so let's try 0.8. Let's say we're including some of that off-site grass area there. And as I'm making these changes, it's actually recalculating the flow. But not only that, it's also using that same data if I were to do something like inspect performance or size pipes. It would use that data in conjunction with the road data as well. So it gives me that added flexibility to include the design of off-road pipes and structures include those in my design. So again, it's more detailed design capabilities. We're giving you the ability to do more than before with these detailed engineering designs. So that takes care of that section. We're going to wrap it up with improved collaboration and sharing. And I've got one slide on this topic. We've got some web publishing improvements. You'll find an extra icon now in your interface, and I'll switch over and show it to you quickly. At the top, you'll see this extra icon, which will launch the ability to manage the model for viewing in a browser. So if I click that link, it'll bring up the browser, and for this particular model, it'll give me the option of what I want to render, so 3D scenarios or panoramas, whether I want to render or not render them. Also for panoramas, I can choose which quality I want to use, high, standard, or do not render at all. So we've also added the high quality rendering for panoramas. Another probably the biggest piece of news here is the ability to render different proposals. Now I only have one proposal in here called master, but if I had more of them, I could choose which proposal I want to do a scenario of or panorama of, and I have that choice now, whereas in the past, if you wanted to do a panorama, you could only do one of master. Now scenarios were proposal specific in the past, but panoramas were not. If you wanted to show something in a panorama, you had to make it part of the master proposal. Well, now that's not a necessity. You can you can set up your panoramas to be proposal specific and simply choose which proposal you want to render as part of your panorama. And something I'll mention that I mentioned earlier in the presentation is the ability to enable and disable the panoramas right from the bookmarks menu. So that little eyeball symbol, you can turn that on and off and decide whether you want that panorama to appear when you publish it to the web. So why is this important? It allows you to share your design more effectively with anyone, and the reason it's with anyone, this web publishing is all viewable in a browser. So if you want to show your model to somebody and they don't have InfraWorks 360, no problem. You can publish it to the web. You can set up these different panoramas and scenarios, and you can show them with whatever you want to show them, and neither of you ever have to leave your desk. You know, you can, it's all done through the cloud and through a web browser. So now that you've seen all this incredible new functionality, I'm sure you're wondering, you know, how do I go out and get this? What's the best way to get this this new release? If you're a current customer, just keep an eye on your application manager. You get a notification that the new version is available. Or you can go to manage.autodesk.com. You should find the new download there. If you're not a current customer and you want to try it out, go to autodesk.com/InfraWorks and check out the trial, the 30-day trial. And also the post in the forum for this webcast, I added a link to the download if you want to just go there. Go to the community site, find the panel for the forum. You'll see the post for this webcast is right at the top of the list in the general discussion forum, and within that post you'll find a link to the download just directly. You click on the link and it starts to download the latest version. So that's another way you can get it. That's kind of a secret, unsupported way. So whatever the case, whatever method you use, I really encourage you to go out and get this downloaded and try it out. For all of the functionality benefits that we talked about and the performance benefits, there's just a lot of good stuff going on in this version. So I'll pause now to see if there are any questions, Dan or Chakri, that came up that you guys want to talk about.
Yeah, Eric, this is Dan. So nice presentation. So a lot of questions we've been answering along the way, and a couple of things. A lot of requests for enhancements either on this capability or other capability as we've gone through this. And in particular, questions about site design. Several people asked about site design. And to risk sounding like a politician here in New Hampshire, we're listening and we hear that. So stay tuned for these webcasts, and you will be seeing us moving that forward. But we are hearing these requests, and we'll go through this webcast to review these requirements.
Yeah, along that note, Dan, I just wanted to bring up the Idea Station. I went to the community site, and if you scroll down a bit, you'll see this Idea Station section in the middle. And if you click the See All Ideas, that'll take you actually to the portal where you can post your ideas. So if you've got requests for the software, things you'd love to see added to it, this is the place to make it happen, because not only do you submit your ideas, but you can get other folks in the community to support your idea. And obviously the more support we see from the community, the more compelled we're going to be to add those features in. So definitely check this out. Any others, Dan?
Some very specific questions along the way. This one's a little off topic, but I just saw it, and maybe you can cover it if you want to. Someone had questions about how you created that parcel map and the colors of it back in your example, Eric, and I don't know if you have time to just verbalize it, but you had the green textures on the parcel map. Someone asked how you actually did that. Yeah, and we can follow up later if you want to.
Real quick, I just opened the drawing as it was. It was a sample drawing from one of our customers, and just the way it looked when I opened it, as though I were working in Civil 3D. I went into the plot command and I just plotted it. There's an old web publish plotter where you can plot to JPEG, and you can set up the resolution. I bumped up the resolution quite a bit so it looked nice and crisp in the model. But then I just hit plot, and it created just what I saw on the screen. It created an image of that. So it was that simple. It took me 2 minutes. Maybe
Excellent.
that would be a good infra tip to post one day, is how to take what you see in Civil 3D and overlay it in InfraWorks 360. Any others?
Just kind of scanning here.
Yeah, I see there are quite a few questions about site.
So Eric, here's one maybe that others might benefit from, and again, whether you have time to comment on it. Do you have suggestions for the best methods to print the model view for a large public display?
Probably your best bet, if you're going to generate a still image out of InfraWorks 360, I would recommend using the snapshot feature. I'm here on the presentation tools, and there's a create snapshot. And the reason I've chose this tool is it's really simple. It shows you what you see on the screen, but it allows you to set the resolution. So if you're going to put an image in a PowerPoint, let's say, and show it on a really big screen, you're going to want a really high resolution image so that it looks nice and crisp. So I would recommend using this snapshot tool. Now, if there's also a render tool which will re-render what you see, but if you're not into rendering and you don't know what all the different features mean and what they do, that could be a little more than what you need as far as capability. Whereas the snapshot is basically take what I see and generate a high resolution image out of it. It'll save the image out as a file. You can see in the dialog right there, and then you can just drop that right into your presentation to show it at a meeting. So that'd be my recommendation. So I'm showing that we have about a minute to go. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up by just reminding everyone that we've got another webcast coming up in 2 weeks, February 24th, same time, 12 to 1 Eastern. We're going to talk about the new model upgrade experience. So if you've got questions or concerns about this whole deal of upgrading your model in the cloud, this is the place to be. Sarah and Isaac are going to be online presenting and answering questions, and really making sure that everyone is comfortable and understands what's going on when you upgrade a model to the latest release. So I hope to see all of you there. By the way, we had record attendance for this webcast. This is the most we've ever had in this series, so that's exciting. And we hope to see that trend continue and have even more in 2 weeks. So with that, I'd like to say thank you once again, Eric Chappell, Community Evangelist for InfraWorks 360. Have a great day. Go out there and download that latest release, install it, and start benefiting from those new features. Thanks, and see you at the next one.